Picture New York City in the 1880s, a place on the edge of becoming the city of the future, but still lit mostly by flickering gas lamps. The skyline is low, the nights are dark, and electricity is this strange, dangerous rumor from laboratories and fairs. But here's the twist. Before New York became one of the brightest places on Earth, before Times Square glowed like a second sun, the state of New York nearly outlawed electricity altogether. Not regulated, not restricted, completely banned from public streets. A move that could have erased the modern age before it even started. Today, we're exploring how fear, politics, money, and a very public death spiraled New York toward banning the future, and how the decision flipped the entire trajectory of America's technological identity. Electricity in the late 1800s wasn't comforting. It wasn't safe. It wasn't even fully understood. Newspapers printed illustrations of people being vaporized by rogue currents. Doctors claimed a mild electric shock could rearrange the brain. Pastors called it the devil's lightning. And the wires, oh, the wires. New York's early electric lines were messy, sagging from rooftops, tangled like dead vines, dozens of competing companies stringing cables with zero coordination. They crackled in the rain. They hummed at night. And on windy days, they whipped through the air like snapping ropes. People didn't call them power lines. They called them death wires. And then, something terrible happened. October 1889, a Western Union telegraph lineman named John Feeks is working on lines over Madison Square. Witnesses said he was adjusting a tangle of wires when suddenly a bolt of electricity burst through him. The shock was so violent it set his clothes on fire. He hung in the air, burning in front of crowds on the street. Newspapers the next day called it the most horrifying sight ever witnessed in New York. People were traumatized, politicians panicked, and reformers seized the moment. Almost overnight, a new cry spread across the state: ban the wires. Behind the scenes, something even darker was happening. This wasn't just about safety, it was about power, literal electric power, and the men who wanted to control it. You had Thomas Edison, champion of direct current, DC. Safe, short-range, reliable, but expensive and limited. George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla, pushing alternating current AC. Cheaper, more powerful, able to travel long distances, but far more dangerous if handled incorrectly. Edison hated AC. He feared it would wipe out his business empire. So, he did something bold and ethically questionable. He weaponized public fear. He started staging animal electrocutions, calves, horses, even an elephant, to prove AC was deadly. He lobbied politicians. He told reporters that AC was a killer current. And when John Feeks died, Edison's allies whispered, AC killed him. Imagine what it could do to you. Public hysteria exploded. The New York Board of Electrical Control proposed a radical idea. Remove all overhead electric wires from New York, or ban electricity entirely until further study. Let that sink in. The state that would become the heart of the electrical age was about to pull the plug. In early 1890, hearings were held. Newspapers cheered the idea. Citizens packed the galleries, parents demanded protection, and dozens of politicians vowed to save the city from electric doom. One assemblyman shouted, "Electricity must not be allowed to roam free above the heads of the public." The proposed law was stunning in scope. No overhead wires, no street-level transformers, no electric streetlights, no public electricity transmission at all until further review. In effect, New York, the future capital of neon, skyscrapers, and modern nightlife, would outlaw its own destiny. Infrastructure companies warned the city would fall behind Chicago, Boston, even London. Inventors begged to stop the panic. Some newspapers flipped, saying banning electricity would turn the city back into a village of candles. The vote came down to a razor-thin margin, and then an unlikely savior stepped in, a machine meant to kill. New York had just adopted a new method for capital punishment, the electric chair. And guess what power source it used? Alternating current, the same AC system the state wanted to ban. Executions were already scheduled, contracts already signed, prisons already wired. If the legislature outlawed electricity, the electric chair would become illegal, and the state would be forced to either cancel executions or revert to older, slower methods. Politicians balked. Even lawmakers, terrified of electricity, weren't willing to lose their new modern method of death. So, in a twist of irony, the electric chair, a device created to prove AC was deadly, ended up saving AC from being banned. New York instead passed a compromise: underground wiring, stricter regulations, and safer installations. Electricity survived, and soon it thrived. Within a decade, Times Square lit up. Skyscrapers glowed from top to bottom. Subway tunnels buzzed with electric trains, and New York became the symbol of modern illumination across the world. If the ban had passed, historians believe the modern power grid might have been delayed by decades. New York went from almost banning electricity to defining what electricity meant for the world. The skyline we know today, glowing, pulsing, alive, almost never existed. And that's the wild, true story of how one state nearly outlawed the future, and how a series of public fears, political battles, and unintended consequences shaped the American century. This has been Stories of the States. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next hidden chapter of American history. New York might have lost its economic dominance. AC might have lost the war of currents. America's technological landscape would look completely different. But it didn't happen, because fear lost and the future won. New York went from almost banning electricity to defining what electricity meant for the world. The skyline we know today, glowing, pulsing, alive, almost never existed. And that's the wild, true story of how one state nearly outlawed the future, and how a series of public fears, political battles, and unintended consequences shaped the American century. This has been Stories of the States. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next hidden chapter of American history.
Welcome to the History of United States YouTube channel. My name is Clyde Chester, and I'm 68 years old American. Please subscribe my YouTube channel for more history of United States.